Okay, let's finish up the armholes. This is where we're going to use that bias tape that we made earlier. So I've got my dress right side out, which is how you want to start, and I'm going to turn it so that I can focus just on one armhole here. And I want to start at the side seam. I'm going to take my bias tape, I'm going to unfold my bias tape, and then I'm going to just barely, like maybe a 1/4 inch, fold the raw short edge back, and then I'm going to pin it. And then you just want to manipulate your bias tape around the curve of the arm side, and we're going to continue to pin. Make sure the raw edge lines up with the raw edge of the dress. And once I get back around the other side of the armhole, I'm going to trim this. So I want to take my bias tape a little bit past where I started, and then go ahead and cut it. And then I'm going to fold that short end back so that it is just touching where I started. All right, so we've got bias tape all the way around that armhole. We're going to take this over to the machine and we're going to stitch. So when I put it on the machine, I actually like to turn just the armhole part of it out, inside out, so it's wrong side out. I feel like that's easier to stitch when you can put the presser foot inside the circle that you're stitching. If you have a free arm on your machine and you like to use that, you can also do that. So I'm going to put the presser foot down here. I have the needle aligned with the fold, the crease mark of that bias tape. And now I'm just going to stitch around. When you get back to where you started, you can overlap a couple stitches before cutting and taking the dress out of the sewing machine. So here's what this looks like so far. I've got this bias tape, it's on the right side of the dress. And what I want to do now is I'm going to fold this to the wrong side of the dress, and that's what's going to finish this edge. So I want to go ahead and turn the dress wrong side out to do this step. And then it can also be helpful when you are pulling the bias tape around to the wrong side to have your iron handy and press a little bit as you go, just to make sure that this isn't rolling out. Additionally, that same understitching that we did on the facings, if you feel like your bias tape is really wanting to roll out, you can also understitch.
me just set the iron. You see that, Kelly? I'm completely blocked. Yeah, that's good.
It's okay, just don't talk to Melissa unless she's going by. We'll be just fine.
Go the other way now.
So you see how all the raw edges of the bias tape and of the dress get tucked in now under this nice little piece of trim. You might also be wondering why we didn't clip the curves here, and that's because this was only a 1/4 inch seam allowance on the bias tape, since we're using such thin bias tape, that really it doesn't pucker like we had a problem with those 1/2 inch seams and the front and back facings. So it's really not necessary to clip here because it's a small seam allowance to begin with. Make sure when you get back to your starting and ending points that all of those little raw edges are tucked under. Okay, so here's what it looks like pinned into place, and I'm now going to go stitch all the way around the edge. Because I'm going to be stitching from the wrong side, this is another instance where my bobbin thread is what's going to be showing on the right side. So just make sure that you've got the bobbin thread color that you want showing on the right side, that's what's loaded into your machine. And I like to stitch this one with the sleeve right side out so that I can put my presser foot on the inside of the sleeve where I'm stitching. And when you get back to where you started, just overlap a couple stitches again. Then you want to trim any stray threads. And when you turn it right side out, here's what the finished top looks like. And you've got this cute little detail that you'll see when you put it on, but won't be visible when you're wearing the dress. And then all we've got left is hemming.